Hello, everyone. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. Settle back, everybody. I have an interesting show today. I'm so excited about today's show. You know, everybody that watches the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series, you know that I live most of the time in Arizona. And one thing that's on everybody's minds in Arizona is water. Clean water, fresh water. How are we going to water our crops? What's the technology behind making sure that our water supply is perfect, that we can regenerate new water from dirty water, and how all of that takes place? And I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I've been able to invite on the show a brother and sister entrepreneurial team. They're really amazing. They are the founders and CEOs and directors of marketing of Nine Water. And let me tell you, they are absolutely incredible. I call them the brother-sister entrepreneurial team of John Grizz Deal and Deborah Deal. And I'm going to call John Grizz throughout the interview. Grizz is the CEO and Deborah is the vice president of sales and marketing. What they're doing in this technology field is absolutely remarkable. They're leaders in the field. I'm so honored to have them both on the show. John, let's start with you. Let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet and tell us about everything that you're doing at Nine Water.
So, hi, and thanks for having us on the show, Jake. We really appreciate it. Nine Water manufactures and sells machines that treat industrial wastewater. It turns out industry takes from 20 to 50% of all fresh water withdrawals every year. And of course, there's usually a coincidence between people living in water stress areas and industry having sort of an outsized effect on those water stressed areas. So these machines allow industry to recycle, reuse, and renew their wastewater instead of throwing it away.
I love it. It makes all the sense in the world. It's such a fascinating space in you. Deborah, let's jump over to you just for a minute, because let's talk about the big picture, because what you're doing is so important. I mean, people are talking about it. People know your background and experience working with Grizz for so long. What's the big picture? What is the real problem about this water supply, and how are you fixing that problem?
Well, Andy, and again, thank you for having us. There's really three things. We don't have enough water, we use too much, and we're throwing it away once it's contaminated. Water is increasingly not where we want it. The Northeast was drowning in September. Something like $24 billion worth of damage was done in the Northeast by Hurricane Ida. And just this week, London was totally flooded out by rain. Then you have the West in a serious drought that is only getting worse and will affect millions of people. And living conditions are crazy. Indeed, there are Native Americans living in the U.S. with no running water at all in their homes. Around the globe, there are at least 1.8 billion people who are drinking water that is not safe for human consumption. So point one, we don't have enough clean water for everyone on the planet.
That's just remarkable. You know, we think about it, we take so much for granted. We go to our faucet, we put our glass under the faucet, we drink it. Most of us get clean water, but so many people don't have clean water throughout the world. And you and Grizz are really solving this amazingly terrible problem about clean drinking water, as well as other types of water that are necessary for plants and necessary for farming and things like that. Grizz, when we think about it, Grizz, you know, let's talk about wastewater treatment plants, because I would imagine they need your technology in such a large way. How does all that work? What's the way in which you're solving the big problem of the wastewater treatment plants with the wastewater that comes out of treating the water?
Well, so let's kind of divide up wastewater into a couple big chunks. Municipal wastewater, which is generally considered sewage, is really easy to deal with. I know maybe it sounds gross, but compared to industrial wastewater, it's very easy. In industrial wastewater, you're going to have metals, metalloids, hydrocarbons, maybe some radioactive material, scalants, things that are just so difficult and expensive, usually, to remove. And again, what our tech, which was invented at Los Alamos Laboratory in this kind of unique collaboration with University of Texas and New Mexico Tech, what they did was they said, look, let's look at this problem in a very specific way, and let's create a system that isolates the different contaminant classes so that you have one reactor that's just concerned with metals and metalloids and another one that's just concerned with hydrocarbons. And this segmentation provides flexibility, provides the easy expansion opportunities. Essentially, it's a machine instead of a big pit in the back that you're waiting to someday that water might be good again. In this case, you put dirty water in one side and clean water comes out the other side in a few minutes.
Wow, it's really remarkable, Grizz. Grizz, let me stay with you for a minute because there's so many different uses of water. Where does 9 Water, what's the sweet spot? What's the sweet spot for your technology with regard to how it solves the big water problem right now?
Well, essentially what we're enabling is industry to create these closed water loops. And that means that they're going to put less stress on the rest of us. Now, I'm not bashing industry, but it's kind of obvious industry gets what they want, right? They're the driving industry of all economies, which in turn are all societies. And so, if a chip manufacturer needs more water, even though they're in Albuquerque, they're going to get it. But if we can get them into this habit of recycling and reusing their water resources, then that's going to, again, lower the stress level in the rest of us. And up until now, it's been pretty difficult. I mean, it was you can get metals out of, industrial wastewater, but you're going to spend a lot of money doing it. And so it's been cheaper to throw the water away or to, have it taken to some hazardous waste facility and just buy fresh water from the local town. But our tech is very well designed to be less expensive than throwing water resources away. And so that's why, 9 Water has such a huge global potential, because if we can save industry money and provide more water as a secondary effect, man, that's just golden.
Grizz, it's so interesting. I want to get back to you in just a moment to talk about the closed loop system, because it's so remarkable what you've been able to put together. But Deborah, when we think about water, the first thing you think about is drinking water, but there's so much water being used in manufacturing and, resource extraction, like mining and drilling for oil. And there's so much water being used in so many other places. How are we using all this water?
Well, Andy, we don't have enough water for everyone. Again, the global demand for water is only going to increase. And by 2050, it's going to be increased by 55%. Now, a lot of that is going to be the growing demand for water for industrial uses, fresh water that's used in factories, mining, et cetera. They're looking for a 400% increase in freshwater withdrawals coming up in the coming year or so.
That's amazing. When you think about the big users, Deborah, you think about drilling operations, and factories and mining. I mean, if you ever drive by one of these operations, I mean, there's giant water pipes and there's so much water being used, and It appears they're just discarding it right now. And I would imagine 9 Water really solves that problem of the discarding of this sort of used water for these big users, right? Yes, it does. It makes it possible for industry to recycle their water and reuse it, so they don't have to use our freshwater resources in their processes and in their operations. I find it so interesting that you're able to really solve this problem. Grizz, let's talk to you just for a minute. Let's get back to you. So Are you selling across all industrial markets right now? What's the focus? Which industrial market really is the leader for Nine Water right now?
Well, there's obviously a lot of vertical markets that our products apply to. As a modest-sized company, though, we've got to focus. And you've been an entrepreneur, you know how it is. You tend to sort of look for what you think might be the easy to access vertical markets. So our initial market foray was into oil and gas. It turns out every time you bring up a barrel of oil, you're going to bring 2 to 50 barrels of contaminated water with that oil. And traditionally, they truck that water away and have it injected into deep water wells, a couple miles under the ground. So there's no danger of interfering with the existing water system, water table, but we lose that resource. And so what our tech enables oil and gas industry to do is to turn it into water that's potable, that can be used for agriculture, or again, could be discharged to the surface.
I love it. It's absolutely amazing. When I think about it, it's such a simple solution to a big problem. For the layman watching the show, Grizz, break it down real simply. What happens? The giant users of water, they make that water dirty, if you will, and then your system comes in and makes that dirty water usable. So let's break it down for me a little bit more, because it's so fascinating.
Right. And so in all industries are kind of different. The extractive industries, they might use some water. I got to tell you, fracking a well is a very small amount of water, a couple million gallons. I know that sounds like a lot, but they can reuse that water over and over. Again, with oil and gas, it's the water that's naturally coming up out of the ground. And you'll get this too with coal bed methane, operations, with a lot of mining operations. Then there's the other side, chemical manufacturing, or hydrocarbon refinery, plastics. All of those guys use a ton of water. And by having this machine from Nine Water sitting in the corner of their factory, they're essentially just treating and reusing the stuff that they would have thrown away. And usually they might do some treatment and pay a huge fee to the municipal sewage system, or they would have trucks take it away and do a deep well injection. All that's gone now. Now they can take and reuse their water on site. It would be as if you could take your aluminum can from your Diet Coke and turn it into a new aluminum can yourself.
Yeah.
That's the analogy that we like to use.
I love it. Now, Deborah, I know you have a big announcement that you want to make, and I'm so excited that you're going to make regarding dedicating a percentage of each sale with regard to your system. I want to get into that in a minute, but John, Grizz, I want to stay with you just for a minute, because when we drive around, especially on the coast, we see the oceans, right? And we see all this salt water out there. Is there anything on tap, whether it's with Nine Water or another organization, for the future of what we can do with this salt water to make it clean water? I mean, just at a high level, since I have you on the show as one of the preeminent experts in power and water, maybe you could answer that question for me.
So we know how to take ocean water and turn it into potable water. And this method's been around and it's been refined over time. It's referred to as reverse osmosis. But the catch is that reverse osmosis is expensive. And, there's a great reverse osmosis plant in Tampa Bay. There's another one in LA. And so they take ocean water and they run it through the RO system, which basically it's like shoving, me through a colander. And so only the good parts get through that colander. But then you have the leftover sludge, the salt concentrate, which you've got to deal with, and you can't just throw it back in the ocean because now you're changing the salinity. So there's sort of these secondary and tertiary things. What's exciting for us, though, is that since Nine Water can act as pre-treatment to reverse osmosis, that means that all the other nasty stuff is gone, even out of ocean water. Of course, you're going to have hydrocarbons naturally in ocean water, lots of metals, things like that. Those things clog up the reverse osmosis filters. So by using our system before RO, you're going to get a huge increase in the amount of water you can recover, and you're going to lower your overall cost because those filters are not going to clog as fast. So we definitely think that there's great synergy there. We don't manufacture a RO system. We bundle RO or something like electrodialysis if you've got, say, some calcium and magnesium you're trying to get rid of. But again, instead of us being the main event, we're sort of the appetizer on that kind of a treatment plan.
Wow, that's so interesting. It's so fascinating what you do. It must be a lot of fun getting up every morning and solving this big problem with your sister, Deborah. Deborah, you know, one thing that caught our attention about what you're doing over at Nine Water is, you know, you and Grizz have such a passion for helping in-need communities. And there's something that came across our desk that says that you're going to be doing something very special with regard to dedicating a percentage of your sales to helping these communities. So maybe you could flush that out for us a little bit, no pun intended, and tell us what you're doing with that, Deborah.
Well, Andy, we're just announcing it here now on your program that Nine Power Clean Water is going to dedicate a percentage of each sale of large industrial water equipment, treatment materials and equipment to providing water treatment equipment for in-need communities in the U.S. and abroad. And like I said earlier, there are communities in the U.S. today that don't have running water in their homes, that or that are drinking and having to use contaminated water. But there's 2 billion people out there drinking contaminated water. It's killing them, and it's making them sick, and it's making them unable to go to work, to go to school, or to improve their lives. They're drinking water with arsenic, lead, radioactive material in it, all things that we can eliminate in scaled down small community-sized versions of our industrial-sized machines. And that's what we want to get out to those in-need communities.
That's so powerful. You know, when you think about water and you think about drinking water, people in America, you know, a lot of our minds go to the fact that this is happening elsewhere. This is happening in another country. This is happening, you know, somewhere thousands of miles away. But it's right here in the United States. We have communities that have unsafe drinking water, and some people don't even have drinking water at all. Let me ask you this question, Deborah, because if there's a community that needs this type of aid, or they want to, you know, further investigate this with what you're doing at Nine Water, how do they reach out to you? How do they get this, you know, conversation going with this big announcement that you're making?
My contact information is on our nonprofit foundation website. It's ixpowerfoundation.org. And there will be my contact information and a little bit of information about how we can go about, you know, helping you out.
That's so amazing, Deborah. Congratulations on this amazing announcement. I want to talk to you about what it's like working with your brother, you know, Big John, Grizz deal, you know, throughout the years. But before I do, Grizz, you know, when I think about it, and when we talk about it, you mentioned this closed loop system. And, you know, closed loop systems are needed for all types of entrepreneurs and all businesses to close sort of the loop of their sales cycle, or what they're doing with their technology, or what they're doing with their customers. But in your particular case, the closed loop system means something entirely different for Nine Water. So maybe you could explain that a little bit, John.
Well, there's been this trend in the last 10 years for what they refer to as ZLD, which is zero liquid discharge. And we got kind of wrapped up in that. And we thought, you know, that's kind of a cop-out because, you know, it basically says, so long as you evaporate all your water and turn all the nasty stuff into solids, you're good. And we wanted to take it one step further. And again, you know, let's take a chemical factory or a refinery. They use lots of water in their process. Maybe they're going to squeeze water out of some, you know, chemical precursor. And it's going to always have some dissolved components, you know, based on where the water came from or what they're making. So putting that water through a 9-water system and allowing them to reuse it, or if they have excess water, make a deal with the local farmer, right? I mean, it's just chemistry. Either the chemicals are there or they're not, and the proof is in the chemical analysis. So by creating this closed water loop, we're giving industry a chance to save a bunch of money and also lessen their impact by acting more responsibly with water resources.
I love it. It's so interesting. When we think about it, I kind of think about the 3 R's, the recycle, reuse, and reclaim. Is that really what we're talking about?
Yes. Yeah, we say renew or reclaim. Yeah. But take, for example, somebody that's doing coal processing. Now, we don't have a whole lot of coal plants here, but, the rest of the world does. When they burn coal, they end up with flue gases going up, and then they need to capture and wash those flue gases, the remnants of those flue gases down. So now what you've done is taken something that was a solid and you've liquefied it, which actually makes it harder to work with, but it's better for the air. So what do you do with this contaminated water? Well, it turns out that water can be turned into clean water to use for the next cycle of wash, and that you can grab the constituents out of that water. Sometimes you might have calcium or other products that come out of that water. There's even the possibility of finding rare earth minerals and things like gold and platinum in this water, because it's in the ground, but it's in a very low level. Our technology concentrates those things that are contaminants. There may be gold in that wastewater that you can mine for.
Wow, that's so interesting, Grizz. Now, Deborah, let's go back to you just for a minute, because, you and Grizz, I mean, for the people that don't know, you're very well known. I mean, in the power and energy and water field. I mean, you've been in this field for a number of years. You're really two of the, leading experts with what you know how to do and what you've done in your past. So, Deborah, let me ask you a question, because it's interesting. We're going to have entrepreneurs watching the show, and, most of them don't work with their brother or their sister. So what's it like working with Grizz for so many years and really becoming sort of the preeminent leaders in this space that you're in?
Well, Andy, it works because we share the same vision. We like working together and taking on projects that may seem daunting to other people. Our family was stationed in Japan when we were kids, which forced us to learn about the world as a whole. We've never been afraid of taking on a big challenge. And this fits with our family ethos to impact society in a positive way. We were raised to believe that service to society is instrumental to living a good life. Doing things to help others is just the way we were raised.
I love it. It's a beautiful story. I mean, there you were growing up together, learning together, sort of how to not only work hard, but also how to get things done together. And it's a great story. I really love it so much. And something that's exciting for me, John, is you're raising some money right now. And people that love this story, love this idea, love your technology, understand the importance of what you're doing, can actually get involved with what you're doing with a crowdfunding platform on Start Engine. And I have to tell you, Start Engine is an amazing platform. It's really incredible. Let's talk about that a little bit. So why did you decide to use crowdfunding to raise capital? I think I know the answer, but I would like to hear it from you, Grizz, because it's a great idea.
Well, there's a couple of reasons. This is our 9th company. One of the reasons it's called 9 Power. And we've traditionally used venture capital money, what I refer to as the Sand Hill Road Gang. Or, we made collaborations with companies like Mitsubishi and other industry leaders. The problem with that is it's not very patient. And also, those VCs are playing kind of a numbers game. They don't want to see a company do 4x or 5x over a period of time because of all of the failure in those traditional investments. They've got to see 10x or better. Now, that kind of runs against this idea of developing products to meet specific customer needs, in our case, industrial needs. So when we first licensed this tech from Los Alamos back in 2012, We had no idea how long it was going to take us to create industrial products. And it took twice as long as we thought. So we needed patient money. So phase one was to work our own existing network, and we have about 30 major investors. But then a couple of years ago, we knew we needed to raise a little bit more money, and we started thinking about crowdfunding. So we did our research and decided on Start Engine because they really are the industry leader. And the neat thing about crowdfunding is, it's really about a bunch of people making modest investment to have a huge impact. And I love crowdfunding now. I think, venture capital is kind of left early stage behind. They're looking for companies even that already have a break even or profit, on their books. But another thing that kind of we benefited from is we went from having sort of, a few dozen people following us and supporting us. And now we have over 500,000 people following us on social media, and we've got several thousand individual investors. And I talk to them. I mean, if you've got an idea, if you have got a question, you can just email invest@ixwater.com, and I'm the guy that's going to answer that question. But if you go to Start Engine, startengine.com/ix-water, you'll find information about our company. And again, because of, originally we were just focused on oil and gas. Now we've broken out into chemical manufacturing, refinery thing. That presentation is kind of guided by the Securities and Exchange Commission. And it really only talks about oil and gas industry. But keep in mind, there's a bunch of other industries too.
Grizz, it's absolutely remarkable. I invite everyone to check it out. It's a great opportunity to get in with this amazing company, with these two great entrepreneurs that have great successes in the multiple companies that they've been running throughout the years. Now, Deb, we've only cut out a certain amount of time. I know you and Grizz are super busy. Grizz told me before the show that he's working on something this weekend that's going to take him 48 hours for a customer. So, Deb, my final question to you is, we live in a world where we have water insecurity. The population is increasing. They're expecting the population to increase to 9 billion people by 2050. I mean, we don't really appear to have enough water for everyone. So my question to you, my final question, Deborah, and then I'll ask a final question to John. And again, thank you both for coming on the show. What's it like to wake up in the morning, Deborah, knowing that you and your brother are working on something that can really make such an amazing difference, not only in the world today, but the world in the future as well?
Well, Andy, it feels good because John and I, that's Grizz, do not have children to leave anything to. What our legacy is going to be is what we create while we're on this face of the planet, while we're alive. And it's exciting and it's comforting to know that all of our life's work is going to culminate in something that is helping people. And that's important. That's what we want to leave.
I love it so much. It makes all the sense in the world, Deborah. Congratulations on what you're doing. Congratulations on the 9 Power Foundation and the big announcement that you're going to give back. It's been a delight and a real honor to have you on the show, Deborah. So I wanted to thank you. Before I go to John for my final question,
Andy.
Thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
Okay, John, let's go back to you for one final question, Grizz. All right. We have a lot of entrepreneurs watching the show. Many of them are watching you and your sister, Deborah, and they're saying to themselves, well, they're at the pinnacle of their career. They've got this great 9 water program going, incredible technology. So many people are starting to use it and talking about how this closed loop system is a real game changer in the industry. Grizz, for the younger entrepreneurs watching the show that maybe are hitting a tough time or a roadblock, or maybe they have, they're deer in the headlights, they maybe freeze a little bit. What kind of advice, Grizz, can you give to the younger entrepreneurs watching the show on how to push through those tough times that they maybe are experiencing in their business?
Well, and to be honest with you, Jake, we've had tough times in the last, it's been 7 years since we've really been working on this company. And I'd say the one thing that you've got to have is persistence. You have got to pursue, your product line, your market space, to the point where you've at least figured out that nobody wants it. Now, here's the problem. We figured out early, everybody, the industry's like, we got great industry feedback, did the whole meet with 100 potential customers thing that is very popular these days, got out of the building, as it were. And still, you'll have these weird dry periods. And actually, the pandemic really sucked. We sold nothing during the pandemic, not one machine. So we had to buckle down, cut our expenses, and, really focus on coming out of the pandemic, hitting the ground running. So we actually developed a couple of new products, licensed some new tech from NASA. We were busy behind the scenes. But that persistence is the only thing that an entrepreneur has. If you've got positive market feedback, never give up. Maybe it's in the wrong format, is the business model screwed up or whatever. But if the product is needed by the market, it's up to you to figure it out. And unfortunately, all you can do is give your energy to that. And, money will never buy you out of a bad idea. So that's, that is the one thing that I tell other entrepreneurs. And I have seen people give up, and we've had employees leave because they didn't believe we were going to succeed. We're like, that's okay. We're on this path. We believe we know what we're doing. We've done it 8 other times. So, it's like the guy at the bottom of the hole. I dug my hole once and I know how to get out. So it's not like we haven't been there before.
I love it. It's something that started early with you and Deborah growing up in a foreign country and learning the power of pushing through and leaning on each other and really trusting each other and moving forward every single day. It's been a real honor to have the brother-sister entrepreneurial team of, great to have you both on the show again. Deborah, congratulations on the 9 Power Foundation. Grizz, congratulations on the closed loop system and what you're doing on Start Engine to give other people an opportunity to invest in this remarkable technology, this remarkable system that you've both developed throughout the years in collaboration with others as well. Grizz, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I have to tell you, this has been a great interview, and it's been very insightful to see people that are changing the world through technology. John, thank you so much for coming on the show today as well.
Thanks a lot.